Today's topic is, it's just this thing. No, we don't really talk about it. I didn't even know when it would happen until probably I was 42 and somebody said, oh no, you got like another 10 years. I was like, oh, cool. I just didn't know. This is a not talked about thing, really. Or then people talk about it. I'm not into the healy-feely women's circle, moon, blah-de-blah, croning ceremony. I'm just like, no, I don't know. But there's another part of me that's never dealt with it because it's something for a different person than I was. Just like men aren't all that interested in menstruation. Leave that to the 12-year-old girls. It's a mystery we don't really want to delve into. It's not for us. That's how I used to feel about menopause. And I think that that's appropriate because menopause is like 33-degree Masonic initiation. It's a cool thing. It's not for everybody. It's for special people. But conventional medicine being the way it is, we got all kinds of really crappy myths and fears that arise out of those myths. So that's what we're going to work on today. And I actually feel qualified to work on it because I'm 54 years old and I'm doing menopause. Nature makes no mistakes, and your symptoms are no exception. Welcome to Mind Over Symptom, where we uncover the deeper pattern. Menopause is like menstruation. You weren't doing it, and then you're doing it. I was not doing menopause, and now I'm doing, in the strictest, simplest biological sense, that all it is. I no longer do that with my uterus. That's it. Boom. So the idea of being menopausal as an ongoing trend and activity is like I am menstruating. I am pubescenting for like 12 years. I'm 28 years old, and oh yes, I'm still pubescing, but starting at age 3. Yeah, she's prepubescent. So that's kind of how we have come to think of menopause: pre, peri, and post. It's so complicated and mysterious, and I think mostly because the medical people really don't get that either. So the problem of menopause is I suffer it. Menopause is this cruel and mean thing that nature does to poor, long-suffering women. It's just awful. That's the implication. I don't want to talk about it because it's a horrible thing. Why stress myself out? That's sort of the feeling. And so it becomes something in my psyche that I need to cope with, mitigate, treat, get through, survive, manage, or suffer. It's a biological thing that I can't help. That's the attitude. That's the myth, feeling in the psyche about menopause. And as you can see from that, many branches of stories can develop. And we can have all kinds of conflicts in that regard. Oh no, look at how fat my ass is getting. Uh-oh. So that means menopause. That means da 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 da. And this is really so sad because menopause is actually cooler than ever. And I'm not saying that to pump you up. I'm saying that because I've discovered it. And it's ironic and hilarious. I remember when I was, I think I started dreaming of having babies when I was like 10. And to me, I imagined having a baby as just the most amazing thing. Like giving birth, according to Hollywood, was going to be just horrible. But then, and it was going to be the best thing ever from then on. And I couldn't believe how weird and creepy and awful the postpartum period was. And nobody had ever told me. I had no idea I could feel like that. It was existential awfulness. And I was shocked. I had read every book out there about prenatal and about the birth experience. And there was this big chunk I never even thought about. And that's how menopause kind of is. There's a lot of stuff we've read and freaked ourselves out about. But I've got a lot for you today, so I'm going to get moving instead of waxing philosophical. Menopause health symptoms that may occur. Thank you, Google, ChatGPT, etc. 1. Hot flashes and night sweats. 2, irregular periods. Is that a symptom? 3, mood swings, feelings of irritability, depression, and anxiety. 4, vaginal dryness. So that's a thinning, drying, and inflammation of the vaginal walls, which may cause discomfort during sex. 5, sleep problems, difficulties falling or staying asleep. 6, decreased libido. 7, cognitive changes. Some women report problems with memory or concentration. Physical symptoms that are more common after menopause and are therefore usually blamed on menopause include osteoporosis, weight gain, and heart disease. Specifically around the middle, I believe, is where the weight gain typically is. And then psychological symptoms that are more common after menopause and therefore thought to be caused by menopause include identity shifts. What do they mean by that? The end of fertility can prompt a shift in a woman's identity and feelings about youth, sexuality, and purpose. And I want to say that's it right there. There's the predictive programming. That idea is what makes menopause so scary. And all these other symptoms are either arising from our fear of that, or they're arising from other stuff and we're blaming it on that. Second, psychological symptom that they list, stress and anxiety. And again, apparently this is caused by menopause because it's happening when we're older, past menopause. What about the stress and anxiety that happens before menopause? Well, it's caused by menopause coming. Okay, what about the stress and anxiety that happens when I'm in my 20s? Well, it's caused by menstruation, I guess. Like they're just blaming I remember I was upset about something. I was like 43 and a woman friend, I was upset about something. She said, oh, that's menopause. I was like, up yours. Talk about dismissing. I want this problem fixed. I want to talk about this problem. And she just totally says, oh, yeah, no, you're hormonal. What she was saying is the thing that bothers you, too bad, And that's what all of this is. Okay, so second psychological symptom blamed on menopause, stress and anxiety. Concerns about aging, health, and changes in family dynamics, such as children leaving home, can contribute to stress and anxiety. And somehow they're blaming this on menopause. You see how they've strung together things and they've upset you, right? But I'm not going to do anything about it because it's menopause. It's not like I can stop menopause unless I go take HRT. And that's really what this is marketing. 3, relationship strains. Changes in libido, mood swings, and other symptoms can put a strain on intimate relationships. So I don't want to bang you anymore is because I'm menopausal. It's not because I'm mad at you about something. When I was not wanting to have sex with you 10 years before, it was maybe because I had a personality disorder. Like, what was the reason before menopause? So this is what's going on. This is the determinism. This is the false cause fallacy. I want to very soon get into the explanation from a GNM perspective, which is, again, it's not really the full story, but it is a much better way of understanding the biology of all this. But before I get into the GNM explanation of everything, I want you to really wallow in this. I really want you to wallow in the scariness of menopause and the awfulness. Losing concentration. Oh my God. Identity shifts because my children are moving away. Oh my God. How do I stop this? No, I can't handle it. What exactly is so scary or concerning or just not good about menopause? What do you dislike about menopause or the potential of menopause? I actually want to know. I got my little list here, but I would like to know
I have a lot to say on this topic.
Okay, let's get into it. What sucks about menopause that you just wish you never had to do it?
And the thing is I don't even know if I'm making it up because I guess I would be deemed pre-menopause, right? Because that's when your cycle hasn't even shifted, but you have all these like crazy personality issues that you didn't used to have.
Okay, crazy personality issues that you didn't used to have.
Yeah. Well, I maybe had them, but they're way worse now.
That are way worse.
Yeah. Like I'm way moodier, and way more irritable than I used to be. Like I'm irritable all the time. And I'm moody all the time. I have big mood swings. My libido is like very, very unpredictable now. And there's a lot of fear about getting older and I haven't done anything with my life that I feel very like proud of yet. So there's a lot of identity stuff.
Of course, everything, and my car won't start on Tuesday. That's definitely a menopause thing. It's worse now. It's much worse
Right.
now than it
Yeah.
was.
And I'm not going to do HRT. I'm like, that's ridiculous. That's just
It
like
is.
tinkering with nature in a way that I don't want to. I do take like a herbal thing to help try to balance, I don't know, hormones, whatever that means. But all this being said, so I've been in the surface of it for like, I would say around 41, 42 is when I started being like, what is going on with me? Like, so when I had my first hot flash, I was having them for like a little bit when I was like 41 or 42. And I think it was more about my like Kundalini rising, but I was like, is this a hot flash? So I would say since like 41, 42 is when I was like, something's shifting in me. But it's like, feels like this weird ominous thing that like, who knows when there's an end to it, and is it only going to get worse? And then you learn GNM and then you're like, and then I'm going to be like a man. I know that's not true, but there's this kind of subtle, pervasive, like now you're going to see the world as a man. I'm like, well, I don't want to see the world as a man. I don't want to become like less feminine, and you see older women and they've got deeper voices, they've got little hairy chins. I want to stay feminine, and yeah, so there's like this weird like I don't want to be pulled. But that all being said, I feel like it is definitely an initiation. It's a rite of passage. I feel like there's power in it. If I can flip the script on it in my own psyche, I know there's a lot of potential there. Like I do feel like it's a major initiation, and there's a reason that the predictive programming is so much about disempowerment and self-devaluation. Yep. There's a reason, because they don't want women to tap into this like deep well of like
That's
deep
right.
Shakti, Sekhmet kind of power.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Nice. So what's going on is you're talking about some symptoms that because you're female and in your 40s, the attractor beam of menopause, they fell in there. Mm-hmm. They fell into the gravity of that. But what if you were 20? What would you blame crazy personality issues that are way worse than they used to be?
I'll tell you what I blame it on, Lishui. I blame it on PMDD, because that is another huge narrative that's out there that I also diagnosed myself with. But that's what a lot of like 20, 30-year-old women are explaining their deep, profound existential angst. And half of the month, they're insane people.
Okay. When did that start, the PMS thing? PMS wasn't a thing until I believe it was about 1980, 1980s. This woman murdered her 3 children and went to court, and they said it was her PMS. And suddenly PMS was a thing. It was a big, huge deal. And then PMS was just the thing. But what did we blame this exact same feelings on before we discovered
hysteria?
Hysteria. Right? Yeah. Okay, PMDD. And before PMDD was hysteria, which means uterus. What about libido very low and unpredictable? Always has been, but worse now. What would we blame it on if you were 23? Your libido being very low and unpredictable. Would you say she's a frigid woman? It would be devaluing feelings and identity feelings and stuff. How about fear of getting older? Is that caused by the menopause, or does that contribute to menopause? How about if you're 28 and the big 3-0 starts to come over the horizon?
The 60-year-olds will tell you to shut up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in your young 20s, you're like, oh, I'm glad I'm not close to 30 yet, So it's funny.
When I remember, I turned 30, I was like, I don't see what the big deal is. But when I turned 40, I was like, how can this be?
Yeah.
How is this possible? And also, I'm never going to have a husband. I'm like a bunch of stuff. It was very weird. It was like the postpartum period. Like, holy crap, nobody told me this. I had no idea it was going to feel like this. Some people, that's how 30 feels. I know a woman who felt that way about her first child turning 10. Double digits. Just blew her mind. I can't have a double digit. Like she was prepared for babies and little guys, but not 10-year-olds. Holy crap. That was a midlife crisis for her. I know a woman who went into this after her wedding. Her big dream was this fairy tale wedding. From early girlhood, she dreamed about the wedding. And this wedding was a huge big deal. Like carriages with horses and all the like top hats. And it was ridiculous. It went on for weeks. It was almost like an Indian wedding with the pre-party and the pre-pre-party and again, it was very expensive and a really huge deal. And then she had a midlife crisis, 25 years old. What's my life about now, right? So fear about getting older is not exactly a menopause, but society, if we want to be collectivist for a moment, has told us. So we know that other people think we're old. That's the hard part. That's the getting older part. And that's what happened when I was 40. Whoever's going to take an old oh my God, I gotta look for 50-year-olds now. Oh my God, they're so old. Like that was my feeling. It was hard. And also I realized what a shallow, shitty person I was. Okay. How about haven't done anything valuable with my life? Can you imagine feeling that, say, at 35?
I've always felt it. So I know it's not a symptom of menopause, but it's like that season of life starts to come in and you're just like, wow, I still haven't done anything.
Again, there's that gravity, the gravity of the menopause. I've been able to just not deal with this, but now with menopause, it's official. I haven't really done anything with my life. But you see how it's not actually menopause's fault?
Yeah. Menopause just kicks up the ticking clock sound.
I was in my 30s and I had a cocktail of stuff that I was taking. I had something for my hypoglycemia, something for my digestion, something for my energy level. I just had a whole handful of things I was taking to try to not feel like crap. I had panic disorder and I had blood sugar stuff and I was feeling like, wow, already? This is what old people go through. And I have lived a fairly healthy. I worked outdoors, very physically hardworking, and I ate fairly okay. Smoked, but I wasn't a heavy smoker, and I was constantly trying to quit. But there was no correlation. Other people my age who live way worse, less healthy lifestyles, they're not going through this. So there was this feeling of being targeted by life, picked out, being given a disorder. If I'd lived in a different time, I would probably have called it PMDD or something. I would have looked for a cause. Maybe I would have thought I had a gender dysphoria. I would have found the popular topic of the day. Looking back, I now understand, based on the trends that I've experienced in my life, I look back on it and I realize narcissistic victim abuse syndrome is what it was. But at that time, I didn't even really know the word narcissist. I didn't really understand abuse. I was just learning about assertiveness. That's what I did know. That was the trend at that time, assertiveness. So what's going on is we are looking out and we are trying to tractor beam ourselves onto the collective and fit into the norm. And this is exaggerated with every step up in life. When we're little, we're just a baby, we're just awesome. And our uniqueness is celebrated. And then we start to be a little girl and it begins. Oh, she's having a meltdown. Oh, little girls. Maybe, oh, that's the kind of little girl she is. And we start to get into our roles. And then we start with this patriarchy stuff, this feminism crap, where we start attributing feelings to our hormones, to our body. I call this seed mind, genetic determinism. It's the same idea. I have this set of parts, and therefore this is what I am. And you begin ascribing it. And when I was a little girl, I was being put down. I remember my mother would sarcastically say, oh, here comes another one of your speeches. And then I would feel bad because I had this big philosophical thing I wanted to share because I've always been exactly like this. I've just been littler and less knowledgeable and way smaller boobs. But I've always been me. And when I was little, I got in trouble for it. But another one was watching my mom melt down, like 4 years old and thinking, uh-oh, she's going to embarrass me in public. And then just doing these superheroic feats to impress her and distract her and save the day. But it was entrainment into a role, right? And all of this was attributed to what I am. This is how layer by layer I began to see myself, as a girl, as this kind, a bossy girl, um, a mouthy girl. I began to see myself as a Cancerian. I began to see myself as extroverted. What was it? ENFJ. Extroverted, intuitive, feeling judger. And I just kept more and more ascribing myself and my feelings to what I was instead of to what I wanted to be or to what I was becoming or to what I was doing. And I became static. It got worse and worse and worse. What did I attribute it to? Oh, I decided I had hypoglycemia. My first panic attack, I ascribed it to going down an elevator shaft into a mine, but I began ascribing things to my agoraphobia and my phobias, feelings I'd had all along. But now I started to say, oh, I see, that's caused by my physical label. But then here's something that is really the heart of the matter. That weird, ominous feeling, something's coming. I can't prevent it. I have no control over it. What is the meaning of my life when I'm just jammed into this body? I didn't have a choice. Here I am with all these obligations, these roles I have to go through, people I have to please. And then life just gets crappier and crappier and crappier until I die in pain and misery. And nobody remembers me. That's the heart of this story. Pretty bad. Also, I don't want to become less feminine. I don't want to become a man. Men are not all that sexy unless they do a lot of work. And I don't want to do a lot of work. Why? Because I'm a woman. That's something that never changes. So I want to explain now from a GNM perspective. From a GNM perspective, we know the only true biological change is that we produce less estrogen, which causes essentially a reversal of puberty. It isn't actually a loss. It's actually a gain to an even larger life. So puberty was a gain. I went from being a girl with all of my hopes and dreams and fun and personality and interests and all the flowing and joys of being who I was. Now I also had the option of being a mom. That's pretty cool. And a girlfriend or a wife. So the sex and baby making level came in. And this is an addition. I'm still me. And now I'm also this cool stuff too. But in our society, no, you've lost your girlhood. Now you're a baby maker. And we're going to attribute all of your feelings to that. And your feelings are going to get worse and worse and worse because you're not that girl you used to be. That's the story. This is where PMDD and so on comes from. So instead of dealing with our problems, we're stuffing them and building trees of conflicts. Every other tissue and functional change on this list is due to special biological programs. None of them is due to the estrogen. None of them. Just like when you're 14 years old and somebody rapes you, your symptoms are not due to you being 14 years old and menstruating. They are not hormonal caused symptoms. They are caused by having a conflict of having been sexually violated, right? It's the exact same at this stage of life. But see, when we get through and become menopausal, we grow again. We still are the little girl we were, and we are still the hot, sexy mama type, and we are now a new thing on top of that. But we can still have special biological programs, especially because of all of the stories we have about menopause. In a healthy, traditional human society, aka a tribe, none of this happens. The period simply stops. And then some other really cool stuff. But, it's probably already begun long before this. But some really cool stuff happens. And I'll get into that in a minute. Because this drop in estrogen happens, from a GNM perspective, and I think of this as deterministic GNM, we say, well, now you're understanding things as a male would. So now you're all territorial. And the burglar comes and you go on the offensive instead of on the defensive. And then there's this so-called hormonal stalemate that Helmut Pilar talks about. And he says, and women suffer so because of it, the hormonal stalemate. Because do I respond feminine or do I respond masculine? Who am I? How do I approach this? This time I want to retreat and that time I want to go surge forward. And he describes it as suffering. But what he's doing, And what many people are doing in GNM is, just as conventional medicine treats us as a walking bag of chemicals, GNM people can sometimes see us as walking bag of conflicts. But I am not a bunch of conflicts. I am that little girl I once was. And I'm still her. And then I'm this sexy hot mama who got added to that. And I'm still her. And I'm now this new layer that gets more and more and more. And it's going to get more and more and more for the next like 150 years of my life. It's going to get better and cooler and more awesome. Because the drop in estrogen is the only real change in the change of life. Conventional medicine believes that somehow estrogen protects us from all these symptoms. But it didn't protect us before menopause. It also didn't protect us before puberty. The belief that the estrogen is protecting us takes us right back to the fundamental error of conventional medicine and often of GNM, which takes these things out of the realm of science and makes these ideas dogmatic. And that fundamental error is the incorrect belief that correlation equals causation. And that's what we're doing with all of this. Oh, look, I'm 27. That's when I started my panic attacks. Do you know the story about the 27 Club? A whole bunch of famous people die at 27. Kurt Cobain, Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix. A whole bunch of people died at 27. And I started my panic attacks at 27. And I believed my panic disorder was caused by being 27. And I went looking, like I was researching to find the cause of the 27-year-old thing. And it turns out it's a total myth, or at least I could find zero anything. It's called the 27 Club. Supposedly it's just a myth, but a lot of people killed themselves or died at 27. And I've always been very sensitive how this person was 27, and I will notice that. Oh yeah, I still believe there's some kind of a thing, because I was attributing my symptoms. I was trying to find a cause. In fact, the biology was the effect. And there was something else that was the cause, which I now know is conflict. And I now know the cause of conflict is my desire to evolve in a certain way. Mm-hmm. That's also what menopause is. It's evolving in a certain way. We do not lose who we once were, but we move on to a new normal. And so we have all of the angst and chaos of any special biological program, but menopause is not a special biological program. It is a biological program. So correlation does not equal causation. And by making that connection, we are doing a self-devaluation story. And we are setting ourselves up for all kinds of stuff. And this is what a hot flash is. You know, men have hot flashes. Did you know that? When they have prostate issues, often they'll be prescribed hormones for the prostate issues. And this causes their active masculine temporal lobe conflicts to become irrelevant. And so they get on the track, but then they don't care. Boom, rapid, sudden healing phase. And then over quick. You know, anybody's capable of hot flashes. They just have to have the combination of a track to a former temporal lobe issue, but now I don't care. I still do this a little bit sometimes with my bleach allergy. I'll smell a strong chlorine smell and I'll get a little prickle, but then I just don't care. But this awareness that I used to care, it comes up. And then the stories that go with it. Yesterday, my neighbor was talking, hey, I just realized I could get one of these little apartment-sized, they're called spin washers, and you put the laundry in the one compartment and you wash it, and then you move it all over to the other compartment and you spin it and you can pull it up to the sink. And the whole time she's wah, 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 wah about this. I'm back and I'm 13 years old and I'm experiencing my mother and the bleach and the whole drama and getting electrocuted. And I'm feeling the feelings come up like I should warn her. I'm feeling myself saying, no, this is her experience. God bless her if she can find one of those machines, because they were great as far as you could roll them up to your sink and plug everything in and away you go. You didn't have to have this dedicated special washing machine hookup with an apartment-sized solution. And anyway, see, I just did it. I just had a big emotional flashback. And just because she was talking about this machine, right? But I really don't care about that problem very much anymore. Like my hands aren't breaking out in hives right now thinking about it. I'm not. Although I am touching my face. This is what the hot flashes are. We are still ourselves, but we're getting in this new capacity. We're now responding to temporal lobe type things, meaning things that we care about that have to do with relating and boundaries. In addition to our femininity, which is our need to flow and exist unencumbered and enjoy life, our beingness, our yin. In addition to that, we are also stepping into doingness. Like, I see what's happening here. This is dumb. I see a rape about to occur. I'm not having it. And we now become capable of also going on the offensive. But we're talking about conflictively. If I can't retreat and I can't go on the offensive, I'm going to have a masculine special biological program. I now have the option of both. And having spent years doing the feminine version, I've got the hang of that. I know how to respond in a feminine way, but now I'm also getting the hang of responding in a masculine way. But I'm not so good at that. I don't have a lot of practice with it. I've got constellated practice with it, but that's not healthy. And I've mostly made more problems for myself. So now I'm caring about my reputation, but in an honest way, not in a constellated way. So when I'm going into aggressive constellation, say, as a feminine pre-menopausal woman, let's use the conventional terminology, and I get all upset at that person over there because they disrespected me. I'm being constellated with that. And my real problem is actually my rejection. It's actually my first identity conflict. And now this other thing is happening, and I'm having a shit fit, and I'm screaming and yelling and making a jerk of myself. That's not masculine. That's constellated. But now, post-menopause, all right, okay, think about this. You know what? I'm not going to have an identity conflict about this. I know who I am. But that person disrespected me. That's not cool. But I'm not actually used to dealing with that. Not like a man who's had this all those years to practice. So I have a conflict about it, and I get depressed and angry, like angry, depressed, right? It's a different kind of anger than the rage of the aggressive constellation. This is what's going on. I'm just now coming at life with a new exploration of issues. And I've got all this experience as a sexy hot mama and as a little girl. So I already know how all that feels, and I got skills. I got skills to handle those kinds of conflicts. So that's why I don't care as much about the feminine things, because I've resolved them. I figured out how to resolve them. I'm an evolved person, but now I'm also caring about it the way that boys and men have always cared about it. Then 70 to 75, there's the so-called andropause, and the man who for 7 decades has got the hang of, don't get all worked up about it. It'll work itself. He's got the wisdom of having resolved lots of male conflicts. Suddenly now he's experiencing things in a defensive, rejected sort of a way.
I still remember I used to go to this class in San Francisco, and it was this woman and her dad heading it. And I remember very clearly, he was talking about something one day and he started crying, and she was like, I don't know what's going on with dad. He cries a lot these days. And I often think about that when I hear the andropause thing, because it's like these men who like their whole lives have just been very stoic and masculine and whatever, like around that age, they start to get very sentimental and nostalgic.
They love the feminine all their lives. They don't understand it. But now they start to actually be the feminine. And it's beautiful because they've always loved it. They've always loved it. They've loved that vulnerability. The way women feel about babies, that's how men feel about feminine. And then they get to become it, 70 to 75, because they don't need to go out there protecting and providing anymore. The need for that has gone. The need being gone is not what causes them to go into andropause. What causes them to go into andropause is they are now evolving to a new, expanded being. So
it's interesting because I'm just putting this together now, because like that happens so much later in life. So it feels like almost like sort of like to a certain extent a biological luxury for a man to experience that since it's later in life. Whereas like with women, since it happens earlier in life, it almost feels like more of a necessity. And it makes me think of like how supposedly in indigenous cultures, they would have like the council of grandmothers who would decide like if the tribe was going to go to war or not, because they had like all the sides of the story. And like they needed to have like be the placeholders for this like wise council,
Yeah.
you know.
You're on the right track, but we are not cogs in a wheel.
Mm-hmm.
They're on the wise counsel because that is what they have evolved, because they want to be.
Right.
That's what they care about. It's not for the society.
Right.
We are not,
it's not like every woman menopausal
yeah,
woman.
we're not, none of it's in service to society.
Okay.
It's in service to the individual. We are all a bunch of selfish individuals, and that's okay. In fact, it's awesome because it's what makes the magic work. And the more we can love our own existence, because it's totally selfish. You're creating this. You're like, I'm going to be a human female. I'm going to totally rock human femaleness. And so you've signed up for this. You've signed up for needing to eat and having two nostrils and all the human things. Other human female things. You've signed up for it because you have a plan. You have an agenda. And if you rock that, then your society also rocks that. But you are totally not doing this for society. And this is what conventional medicine and basically the civilization that we're in wants us to believe. It's essentially Marxist. It's centralization of everything, top-down control. And it messes with our minds to make that happen. That we are all worker bees. That's what's going on here. And we're not. We are, every one of us, the beehive itself. Okay. When we try to blame our various moods, symptoms, and difficulties in our personal relationships on menopause, what we're doing is blaming our special biological programs on a biological program. It's exactly the same as blaming these life problems before menopause on the fact that we started our period at puberty, for example. Or, you know, you can't, I saw, it was one of these Karen videos, and this woman's getting arrested, and she's just furious. So you can't do that. I'm pregnant. That's hurting my wrist. I'm pregnant. You can't arrest me. I'm pregnant. How dare you put me in cuffs? I'm pregnant. She seemed to be genuinely like, holy crap, being pregnant is the get out of jail ticket on anything. Okay. Menopause without special biological programs, such as the semigenital conflict, self-devaluation, lots of them, sexual or relating conflicts. Menopause without that has zero symptoms. The period simply stops. Age 50 for right-handers, age 54 for left-handers. These are approximate, but it's like the period starts at 11 and then it ends at 50 or 54-ish. So imagine your life before puberty, before your baby making equipment went into full drive. Was it possible for you to be healthy, happy, strong, and energized, love yourself, and have a purpose in life?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what menopause is. It's that plus a bunch of skills.
Yeah.
It's that, but you've graduated 50th degree black belt university, whatever.
I have so much self-devaluation story around. Yeah, but there's no way I would have that energy again.
You would if you resolve your stuff.
That's true. Like my mother-in-law, she is an energizer bunny. Oh my God, she has so much energy.
You just have to resolve your conflicts, which is hard when you believe that resolving your conflicts will kill you.
Right.
And so we got the false cause fallacy and the myth. It is coming in through GNM as well. We have to just transcend the whole thing. And that's what menopause is. Transcending. Big picture. We get all the views. We get to use the tool in any toolbox. Menopause equals transcendence. Not leaving, but being at the highest position. It's the 50,000 foot view, but we also get to go zoom into the details at any level below. So that's what it is. Was it possible to be feminine before puberty? Absolutely. You will never not be feminine. You will always be a human female till you croak. And probably after that, according to some theories. When I'm symptomatic because of menopause, that is when I'm experiencing changes in my body, psyche, and relationships as negative, problematic, products of my own failing hormones. I am seeing myself as a passive victim of my biology. It's about our consciousness and the experiences of our psyche. This whole thing is this zit on my left cheek, the fact that I have breasts, all of it is about my consciousness and the experiences in my psyche. With the menopause topic, we have to see who and what we really are, and then we have to understand our conflicts in that context. Conventional medicine does not do this, so you'll never get helpful guidance there. And unfortunately, most GNM/GHK practice is also not doing this. Instead, these points of view are seeing us deterministically, as though our hormones are controlling us, as though our conflicts are controlling us, as though our biology is happening to us. And it's not. It is happening for us, and we're doing it for an agenda. So it comes down to that same fundamental error of our civilizational paradigm, that passive, victim-y, the world is hurting me dogma that pervades just about everything these days. So I don't just have PMS, I have PMDD. I'm not just a girl. I'm so much of a girl that I'm a boy. Actually, I'm a chicken. We're one-upping our own victimhood because we're trying to get something that we feel is escaping us. And it turns out, Dorothy, you've had the answer all along. So this is why I say the fifth biological law is the most important, but also the one least understood. It isn't because the fifth biological law is hard to understand. It's because we've learned something opposite to it. And despite mountains of evidence that the idea of our bodies as falling apart machines filled with errors and malignancy is completely wrong, we've got that little story. We have to deal with it. The stakes are getting higher now because in menopause, our evolutionary desire is even bigger. And this is why all the symptoms. Okay, I've done it. I've done my homework. I've done puberty. I've done sex. I've done baby making. I've done all that. All right, now I'm going to do me. I'm going to do my life. And this is when our world is clamping down on us and saying, oh no, now you're done. Now you suck more. You should have evolved and become magnificent back then when you were in your 20s. You blew it. The story. The stakes are really high because actually now we're ready. We've got what it takes. We know you're not ready to go to school till you're 6 or 7 because you need to do baby things first. You need to run and jump and scream and learn how to poop in the toilet and all that cool stuff. You're not ready to get married and be responsible till you're at least in your probably 20s. You have to go get high and get in trouble and learn algebra and all the things, right? You don't get to be your full, magical, amazing, whatever your self is, till menopause. Because first you have to know how all the bullshit of life works. Now I want to get into the good stuff. What you need to do is you need to know that you are going to enjoy menopause. I want you to get excited about it, embrace it, because this is what you signed up for when you created this human female body. With menopause, you are not losing a thing. You are gaining the freedom to understand the world from a transcended, largest perspective. Now, at first, you're not going to be great at it. This is a new skill like learning to walk. It's amazing. You're going to be seeing the world with both sides of your brain. First objection. But I don't get to have babies anymore. My answer, yes, you do, for 2 reasons. First, it is your role as a menopausal, whatever. Let's come up with a better name for that. Man, and Crohn sucks too. I don't like either of these. Okay. As a full woman, your role is to take care of all the babies. You now have the wherewithal and the exact skills, energy level, and wisdom to do it properly. In a natural human society, that is the tribe, it is not the mums who raise up and teach the children. It is the grandmothers. It's not the grandfathers either. It's the grandfathers when they hit 70 to 75, but the grandfathers are actually teaching philosophy. The andropause is the spiritual. The menopause is the actual skills, practical life knowledge. I mean, big picture problems, not how to spit or something, but the Although that's cool too. Mostly grandmas teach that sort of cool stuff too. But so the grandfathers are doing philosophy, and also there are a lot fewer of them. Grandmothers have the bigger job with the children. And grandfathers tend to be teaching older kids, like pubescent kids. We civilized folks see this as how nice, they give the old people something to do to make them feel so not useless. And also, okay, in a tribe, it's all about survival and life is so hard, nasty, brutish, and short. So basically, it's a DEI job just to keep the old farts busy. Isn't that nice? But as soon as things get too rough, we're sticking them on the ice floe and we're going to move on without them and try to eke out an existence somewhere with less scarce resources. That's the story. This is totally civilized, deterministic, and unfortunately normal viewpoint of what old age is like. And it's the coarse self-devaluation story that makes menopause so awful. And I think it's why we croak at 70 to 90 years old instead of 200 years old or whatever. Because we feel like, okay, I'm done. This is pointless. Like, it's so existentially isolative. And it's a total lie. In a natural human society, it is necessary that someone teaches the young people the important skills of real life. And it's a big bloody job too. And we have a lot that we humans have to learn, right? Hundreds of food plants and animals, how to deal with them, what to do with them, how to preserve them, how to gather them, when, how to get along with others, all the rules of culture and society and marriage and relating. Oh my God, that is complicated stuff. Most of us don't have the hang of it, even by the time we reach menopause. But that's grandmothers are supposed to be teaching that crap to the young people. It's helping them sort through their thing. All the therapists, grandmas, how to build all the technologies we need. Housing, cooking, transportation, farming, hunting, clothing, heating, including all the modern ones. How the internet works. Industrial processes. This is all grandmas who are supposed to be explaining. We need the systems thinkers. That's grandmas. The healing arts, the big deal. And this is just the practical stuff. There's also the philosophical and religious stuff that every culture builds itself around. So there's the stories that the young people need to learn, the children need to learn in a simplistic form. Grandfathers will get into the heavy stuff, the secret society stuff. Grandmothers teach it to the little ones and give them a foundation.
You saying the thing about teaching the stories, it's something I've not really ever told anybody, but when I was in grad school, and because it was a hippy dippy grad school in San Francisco, I would sometimes, well, can I just do this paper as a story? And they would be like, sure. And I probably did that like 3 different times on bigger assignments. And every time they were like, I love this. Can I share it with people? Because I would just take these academic, huge, complex things and I'd just be like, well, if this was a children's story, what would it look like? And I would just boil it down to a children's story. And I really like doing that. It's really fun for me.
That's totally your job. I mean, that's this bring the magic to the people. This is not about being old. This is about actually being young. This is why humans end their baby making years. It's so that they can take care of babies properly. It's too big of a job for moms.
Yeah.
Moms and dads are out there getting the food and all that stuff, building houses, making wine. There's a lot of work to do, but humans live in tribe and everybody's important.
I remember just feeling like, oh, I wish that I had that.
Yeah. Yeah. This is something I've been having a hard time dealing with because I love kids and I would love to have had a ton of kids, but it's really hard in our world right now. But I also realize there's a big change coming. And I think there's a possibility that there's going to be a lot of children that just need some grandmas to. But this is so hard. I got to homeschool my son. He's a 20-year-old man with Down syndrome, and I got to somehow, and he hates school because of how school was. But he's super keen on learning things. He should have been turned over to a bunch of grandmas. When he did have a grandma, they did the coolest things. They climbed trees, like really cool stuff that moms would be terrified to do with their kids, right? And don't have time to. So it's a role. But imagine turning a young man or a child over to a cabal of grandmas. Some of these grandmas are super into gardening, and some of them are awesome cooks, and some of them are really into tech stuff. Women in their teens, 20s, and 30s do not have time for all this.
No. Even 40s.
Yeah, it's the get it done years. And they're busy making and nursing babies and doing the majority of the physical labor for the community. So actually, it is with menopause that nature gives you the biggest practical role with children. And this begins for the menopausal woman as soon as as soon as other people's babies, anybody's babies begin walking and talking, it's grandma's turn. And we need a better word than old lady or menopausal. Ugh, yucky. The second reason you still get to have babies is biologically, you can actually still make babies at any age after your puberty and also after your menopause. All you need is to be turned on by a dominant male, and your withered little ovaries will spring to life.
What?
And then people will say, yes, she must have had a conflict and an ovary thing. Okay, sure. But that's what'll happen. And technically, you always have the option biologically. You have to solve your crap. And you have to have a man that you really want to fornicate and procreate with. You have to have that turn on. And you may not be interested in that. Mm-hmm. And if you got all this, but I shouldn't because I'm 63, if you got any of that going on, then it's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. So the reason we don't normally have babies after menopause is we usually have so much crap going on and such a huge self-devaluation story about being old that we don't dare get ourselves into any kind of a situation where this kind of sexual tension would occur. This beautiful sexual, oh my God, just doesn't happen. But it, we know it can. We know it can. So what was going on is we're kind of giving up on sex by the time we get to menopause. And this is one of the things that makes menopause so very symptomatic. It's because we have self-devaluation and we're coming up with, no, I'm not an attractive person. There's no attractive men. It's not possible. It's all self-devaluation stories. It's being female that lets you be feminine, and you will always be female. You also now have the option of seeing the world offensively, being a doer and go-getter instead of a passive recipient of life. We've become accustomed to being conflictively masculine, so we have negative feelings about masculinity. Again, more crap that needs to be resolved. It is totally okay to be masculine and feminine. You get to be both now. What is the concern is when the burglar comes and attacks me, oh no, do I hide under the covers or do I jump out and stab him in the face? But is the problem really being masculine or feminine, so-called hormonal stalemate? Or is the problem the burglar? Let's get some context on it. And that's what menopause allows us to do. Plenty of post-50-year-old women who scream and fall apart and become total victims. We might call that feminine, right? But this is conflict. Let's worry about the trauma. Let's not give the person a whole identity about it. In fact, at menopause, you have relief from your feminine temporal lobe conflicts, and that means a relief from being conflictively masculine. And at the same time, you can begin to finally understand how men feel and what motivates them. Finally, you're wise. See, men understand women way better than women understand men, but women don't know that. Women think that men are these simpletons. And men are just standing back going, oh God, here she goes. Once we get this larger perspective, we get to see ourselves and go, oh God, I can't believe I used to do that. And we resolve things because of that. Right? The transcendence above the compulsions of sex relations results in the capacity to understand both the feminine and the masculine perspective, and something that men do not get to experience for another 20 years or so. So be grateful, right? It dramatically, like an order of magnitude, increases our capacity for love. If we are not silly twats about it, which I used to we call it the post-menopause club, all these women who would get all catty and manipulative. It was the Unitarian fellowship that I was part of, and all these women would get into these wars with each other. It was brutal. They were so vicious, but it was all their conflicts that they'd never dealt with their whole lives. It was a mess. It just ruined things. Illegal goings on, just crappy, just really crappy. So this is the inversion of the potential, and it's mean. So that's what I meant by high stakes. And the third objection I want to talk about, which I think is the biggest one, but I'm not young and valuable anymore. And this is the biggest lie. With menopause, you are more valuable than ever. And this is the best secret of all. You are also more young than you have been because you are more free. You also have more resources than ever. Remember when you were a little girl and you're like, when I grow up, and the dreams you had for when you had the power and the skills and the liberation when you had your own place, your own mansion or apartment and your own money. You got to pick whatever you wanted at the grocery store. Imagine that. Remember that. That's real now. That's what menopause really is. It's the little girl who's getting to be what she wanted to be when she grew up. Aging is not a real thing. And we can experience that if, this is the hard work, this is the part we got to do this, if we stop clinging to the self-devaluation stories based on the lies taught to us by our culture. We are not machines. We do not wear out. There is no such thing as having an old body. Your body is exactly as old as a 1-year-old's body. It's only our conflicts, specifically the ones that we don't solve, that over time bend and stiffen and weaken us. But we are doing that. We are bending ourselves, stiffening ourselves, weakening ourselves with our minds. And so this menopause story that we learn from our civilization is one of the saddest, most devastating lies of all. And if we can resolve it, if we can rip that lie out of our consciousness and really see what a lie it is, menopause will become one of the most wonderful things that we ever experience. And I'm having just moments of excitement, but they are really, really cool. I don't know how much of it is from resolving stuff, because I'm constantly working on resolving things too, right? And how much of it is this larger perspective, I don't know. It's wonderful though. This has been Mind Over Symptom with Lishui Springford, where symptoms are not the enemy and you are your own authority. For more, visit mindtreehealth.co.